Put your hands together. Start clapping right now for the incomparable Just
I've had quite a week still trying to distill all of my thoughts and feelings around the presidential debate. Okay. I live in New York, and in New York there are a lot of parks, and in some of those parks, you'll see, it's like an iconic thing about New York, that there'll be somebody playing chess in the park, right? And sometimes they're just two old men playing chess or checkers. Sometimes it's somebody that's like, hey, I'll play anybody, I'm practicing for a tournament. And a lot of times, it's somebody who's playing chess, but they're playing for like money. Like, you put 5 down, I bet you can't beat me, and I'll put 5 down, and we'll see. And then, you know, speed chess as well. They got the clock next to them, bow, 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 right? And I've played before, and I'm not good at chess. And it's crazy how fast you can lose. Sometimes I'll be playing chess in the park, and he'll be like, checkmate, but it sounds like there's no way. Then I'll grab, I have a chess book, and I'll look at the board and look at the book. Like, damn, okay. That wasn't that many moves. I don't know what else I was supposed to do. You know? And I don't know, I feel like watching the election and watching the debate felt a lot like that. It felt like bad chess moves. We've watched a lot of debates that Trump has been in, and we've gone 2 for 2 this year with having remarkably historic debates, both of which were like, whew. You know what I mean? Like, you get done and you're like, whew. Felt like I was up there. And there was a moment in the first debate that was echoed in this debate. There was a moment back when Trump was debating Biden, and I've talked about it before, where there's a second there where Trump looked at Biden, and for a split second, he wasn't trying to be president. He wasn't even trying to debate. He was literally like, hey, he good? Like, no, y'all, stop. Is he good, though? It was a different tactic than we've ever seen before from Kamala debating Trump, because she debated him the way that I think a lot of us might debate him. You know? I'm not gonna speak for anybody in here, anybody listening to me. I don't know if you're like a political analyst. I don't know how involved you are with politics, but she debated him the way that I think we debate him sometimes in our heads, which is to be like, what did you just... Because most politicians are not, hear me out. Most politicians don't behave like people. And when I say that, I want you to understand, I mean, maybe they care about people, maybe they care about getting something good done, maybe they care about forwarding their agenda, but they don't react to things, and they don't behave like people, like just regular people. It's why they feel fake, is because they can't just be like, oh, shit. Do you see, man? Do you see what I mean? And it's why people from 2015 on have gravitated towards Trump, because he feels like they would react. Like he will say, oh, shit. But then you look at someone like Kamala, and she's a very polished person, very accomplished person. But in that debate, she was having moments that for the first time ever felt like moments that we might have up there. Does that make sense? Like when Trump would debate other Republicans leading up to the nomination, or when Trump would debate Hillary or Biden, there was a sense of like, wait, are you not going to say anything about the thing that he just said just now? Why are you staring forward, acting like what you heard wasn't wrong? Why are you like looking to the moderators to fact check? There's nothing more exhausting than when someone who could be a good player is looking at the ref to be like, help. You know what I mean? You say he's lying right now. Like he just lied now, so say it now. Don't later be like, and then they didn't even help. Do you see what I mean? We've watched it happen. We've watched, he was in those debates. Republicans did not know what to do with this man. He was over there telling Ted Cruz to his face, your wife is ugly. And because Ted Cruz doesn't move like a person, doesn't react like a person, he didn't slap him in his face in that moment. No, Trump has shown that the American people were ready and willing for someone unorthodox. You know how much he would have surged in the polls if he had walked over from his podium and was like, what? And then slapped Trump in his face. I know at least his wife would have liked it. I don't even remember what he said about Marco Rubio. I just remember Marco Rubio looking littler and littler every day. Marco Rubio started showing up. I was like, is he 4'8"? Nobody knew what to do. Journalists didn't know what to do. Journalists were like, but you can't say that about the press. But he did it. What are you gonna do? And so now you watch this debate with Kamala, and we've all heard it and probably said it ourselves, that she baited him a lot, but he bit every time. And this is my thing with that, is that decorum aside, don't you want someone representing you that could maybe let something slide? It's got to be tough to be in the public eye. It's got to be tough to be and feel slighted all the time by lots of people that you meet that you don't know, and they hate you. But also, you're here to do a job. You're here to do a job on the highest level. So a lot of people won't like you. No matter who wins as president, there will be people who are very upset. Do you really want someone who could be so easily irked? Kamala said, nobody. Kamala said that people leave his rallies early out of boredom and maybe confusion. I don't remember the other thing she said, but she said people were leaving early. And this is what's so interesting about that. We can talk about how much it's warranted or how much of it he egged on or whatever, but there has not been in a very long time a political figure that is as hated as Trump by a lot of people. So a lot of people have said every type of thing about him. A lot of people have drawn him. Do you know how much you gotta hate somebody to draw them? A lot of people... Drawings take time. It's one thing to curse somebody out real quick. It's a totally different thing to... No, wait, I'm getting his ass. I'm gonna take break, but when I get back, he about to get it, all right? So all manner of things have been said to and about him, about himself, about his family, about how he behaves, about how he actually feels, about Americans in America, all of it. But this thing hadn't been said. And it turns out that this was the thing to say. This was the thing. If you're talking about feelings, this was the thing. And that's it. Look. As someone raised by black women, don't. Black women know how to hurt feelings. Only a black woman would be like, no, go to his little rally and see. That's how confident she was in what she was saying, that she told us to go. She was like, look, I'm gonna do something I wouldn't normally do. Go ahead and go. You'll leave early, don't worry. That was the thing. That was the thing. And you could see it happen. You could see it, oh. On his face, you could see it happen. This dude who has held the highest office has been called a traitor. He's been called a Russian asset. He's been called all manner of things, but this was the thing. And it's because deep down at his core, even his supporters will admit that deep down at the base of who he is, Trump is an entertainer. And all I'm saying is, as a fellow entertainer, if someone had said, Josh, people leave your shows early out of boredom and confusion, I'd be like, oh, okay, we fighting, say less. This was the thing. That was the thing that like broke through this weird armor. Because I've noticed that Trump specifically has a thing that has always kind of existed in politics, but has never existed to this degree, right? Where Trump has a filter created by his base, by the people who like him, love him, and everything, that he can say whatever he wants, but they will distill it for him for the rest of us. He'll say whatever, and then they will be like, what he meant was... But what he meant shouldn't have been what he said. Because he said this, and you're saying he meant something else, but he also had access to the words you just said. So are you sure he meant what you're saying and not what he said? I'd like to think that when you say something as the commander-in-chief, you mean what you said when you said it. You didn't say something being like, they'll figure it out. And because he has that filter, because that sort of buffer exists between him and like sound arguments and logic, I don't even mean that as like a diss. I literally mean he could say something and then it could spin out past something that he meant for real, right? Because, as an example, that's like Trump's vaccine. I know we forget that, and I've talked about it before, but that's like, as far as presidents go, as far as you getting credit for the things you do while you're president, that's Trump's vaccine. But when he tried to say, guys, we did it, we have a vaccine, and his audience booed, he realized what it's like. Oh, I don't necessarily control what goes out, even though I said it. I said you should get vaccinated, and then they booed me. So clearly, it's not like a one-to-one. What I say is not, it won't be exactly what they do. So now I'm also trying to figure out how to like keep them on my side, but win them over, but lead them. I think in that moment you saw him get really worried and confused, and he immediately backtracked. He was like, or don't. And I said all of that to say that the screen, the buffer, the thing that he usually has, I'm not saying he lost it for good in this debate, but he did lose it a little bit. Because I grew up in Louisiana, and I know people who are like hardcore in the MAGA movement, like people who are like, no, Trump is the guy. He is gonna fix everything, right? I've grown up with these people, and we know each other well. And this was the first time that they were like, that wasn't great. Because even in debates against Hillary, they were like, no, okay, he said the thing, and I know it's a good soundbite for you liberals, but like, this is what he meant. And the thing that they're saying he meant, which is what they heard, which is what they decided to hear, is a reasonable thing when they start saying it from their mouth. So now I'm like, oh, okay, if that's what you think, that's what he said, then I can see why you're still like really gung-ho while I'm more put off by what he said, you know? But this was the first time that there was almost like a shared language. There was like a shared reality around like what's happening to him right now. And he started to spiral, and he said, hey, look, they asked him a question. I can't remember if it was about immigration or the economy, but they asked him a question that should have been a layup for him. And he was still like, can I address the rallies for a second? Which, as a fellow entertainer, I understand. If someone had said that to me, I would have also been like, hey, listen, let me explain, all right? It was a Friday late show. They were tired, okay? You can't put that on me. And he said, can I address the rallies real quick? Because people don't go to her rallies, all right? They don't go to her rallies at all. The people that go to her rallies, she got to bust them in, and then they don't even have fun while they're there. She doesn't have any snacks. Now I'm paraphrasing, but like... But he did. He hit back with like rallies. They asked him underhanded. Should have knocked it out of the park, and he got distracted by rallies and crowd size and things that make sense as a priority if you're an entertainer. But if you're about to be the leader of the free world, they shouldn't matter as much, you know? And you could see him kind of spiraling after that, because he was a little frustrated by like this thing that broke through. Then that never happens. Trump is a very hard person to debate because people like him are very hard to debate because they're not trying to have a debate with you. They're trying to make you look dumb. And because Trump is like very good at making other people look dumb, he's very good at debating. You see what I mean? But this was the first time that he was like, what is she talking about? My crowd. And so, you know, he had a bit of a spiral, and before you know it, he was like, look, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs, they're eating cats, they're eating, and you could tell in that moment that Trump wanted to say another animal, but he couldn't think of one. Because he says pets, but pets is off rhythm. If you go back and watch, it's like they're eating the dogs, they're eating cats, they're eating... And you can see for a split second the wheels turn of he's like trying to think of, they're eating the bird. No, we all eat birds. They're eating the pets. You know? And then, you know, Kamala does a thing, and it's a thing that we've done when we've been watching debates, when we've been watching rallies, when we've been watching them on the news. She does a thing that we've done before, that a lot of other politicians have not done on stage with Trump. She laughed at him. And I think there's context to that laugh, because I'm not trying to get too, like, I don't know, like too much of a deep dive into it, but like there's context with that laugh, because she's not laughing at him, she's laughing at what he said. And that's really different. It's one thing to say Trump is a joke and Trump is a joke, and you could make the argument that the reason Trump became president was because Obama made him a joke. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Obama made fun of this man and he just sat there quiet, you know? And then years later, he was like, peaceful transition of power, huh? There's a big difference between laughing at Trump and laughing at what he said. You can think that Trump is a joke all you want, but he laughed his way to the presidency. But then when you laugh at what he says, when you take the power out of what he's saying, that's a very different thing. You know? She laughed at what he said for a second. And then there was a second, it was very slight, but there was a second where she was still smiling, but she wasn't laughing. And then there was a second where she wasn't smiling and she wasn't laughing, and it was reminiscent of like, yo, Yo. No, wait, yo. You know? And that's my thing, is I'm like, I look at that, I'm like, wow, that's different, you know? It was very, very different. And the thing I've noticed in both these debates is that they're not even about who did well. They're just about who did the least poorly. That's what we get stuck on. Like, it wasn't even, last debate wasn't even about Trump performing well, it was about Biden crashing out. And then this debate wasn't as much about Kamala winning as much as Trump. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cat, they're eating flamingos. They're eating the pets. No. And it was the first time in all the times that he's debated that Trump looked 78. Because he's 78. And he's got a lot of energy, so we let a lot of those years slide. We don't feel like he's 78. You know what I mean? Like I've known grandpas like Trump. I've known grandpas that were like, oh, he's got so much energy and he's so spry. And he's eating a lot of fast food. But he's 78. You know what I mean? But I guess this is one of my main things about it, is that like, it was the first time I saw him look out of his element on like a really important moment, you know? And I don't want people to think that this is like That's it. That's all that needed. Not at all. It's harrowing how little it actually moves the needle. Almost everyone feels the way they felt before, even after we saw what we saw. And we agree that it didn't go well for one person. But we're still like, nah, I'm still gonna go the way I was gonna go. That's interesting, you know, that after all of this, they're like tied. Wow. They're tied. In lots of places, they're tied. It's not even like it's working out to be a tie because all this place and all this. No, in a lot of places, they watched that and they were like, I don't know. That's pretty wild, you know? The first time he really looked 78, because it was the first time he said something that, like, a grandpa would say right before you put him in a home. You know what I mean? Because be honest. If you let a lot of stuff slide as like a child or grandchild, and then grandpa been living by himself. But if one day out of nowhere, and you haven't seen where he saw this on the internet, he just walks up and he's like, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cat. You're like, okay, that's the last straw. I let you put the remote in the mailbox several times. But this is the one that I can't abide. This is, no? Because it really has consequence. And I think that we live well enough here, even though I'm not even pretending things are just phenomenal. I'm just saying, day to day, by and large, we do get by. And I think that when you get by, especially comfortably, it can feel like a game. You know, it can feel like something that doesn't matter as much. You know, and it can feel like something that you're just playing at. And I think that, you know, it's important to remember that all of the things that these people say, these are very powerful people already, and one of them is going to become even more powerful. Everything that they say, everything they do has ripple effects. You know, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. It's like a meme. It's like a thing that's starting up. But it's also, which is very, very important, because we did a thing back in 2014, and we've done it ever since, that I don't know how to fix it. I'm just saying what happened from 2014 on. Anyone online that was even all the way from like crazy people down to people who were slightly conservative, right? From 2014 on, were just called Nazis outright, right? Anything, and even a question, oh, you Nazi, right? To the point where Nazi started to not mean anything. And when it doesn't mean anything, it's hard to make it mean something when like an actual Nazi shows up, right? And I want to be clear here. The thing that Trump said, it is a lie started by a neo-Nazi. I don't care how many people on Twitter try to find something to make it make sense after the fact. It's a thing that a guy said at a community meeting where he was specifically targeting the Haitian community, and he said that we will not be safe the more Haitians we let into it. That's also the other part of the soundbite. Outside of the dogs and cats, this dude was specifically saying, and he gets kicked out of the community meeting. That part also didn't make it into the viral clip, right? And so when people are saying, well, I saw, and they have these fourth-hand accounts of like my brother's, sister's, uncle's girlfriend has a cat that's missing. And they try to put stuff together. There's even a video going around of some people cooking a cat that's from a year ago and not in Springfield. And then that became like evidence. There's another picture of a guy that was walking with two geese that they said he was on his way to go cook, when actually it was found out that this dude was pulling these geese away from a car accident where they got hit, and that he's probably not Haitian. But even so, death threats, bomb threats, all of this horrible, horrific stuff has been happening to the Haitian community, to the point where apparently maybe this isn't true, but apparently even the person in the Facebook group that first posted about, oh, my niece's cat is missing, and thinking, she has even come out and been like, I never meant for it to turn into this. That was just a Facebook post. Maybe she was having a goof with a friend. She didn't think it would come out of the mouth of the former president in a debate where he was flailing. So all these things have real consequences. It's not a game, and we are not chess pieces, you know? And even after the debate, you know, it almost like hijacked the whole narrative of Trump losing the debate and Kamala winning it. Now it became about this weird thing with hate. And it's also already, in that little bit of time since the debate, switched into Africans, because now they were just like, oh, wait, we got it wrong. It's not Haitians, it's Africans that are eating the dogs and cats. And so now it's already shifted just to try to find some truth out of a thing that was a lie, right? And you have J.D. Vance afterwards who, you know, pretty much probably fed that to Trump. And he's sitting there talking to Collins in an interview, talking about, okay, whether we find out that this is somewhat true or only a little bit true, was not willing to call it a lie, right? He says that, you know, we don't have evidence. This is me paraphrasing just for the sake of brevity, but basically we don't have evidence that there's no evidence. And the thing that is like so brain broken about that logic is that it creates a tidal wave of insanity until you can finally make something that you want to be true, right? Because it could ruin anybody's life. For instance, when you look at J.D. Vance, there is no evidence that there's no evidence that he didn't bang a couch. Do you see? Like, do you see how that's an unending thing? How it could ruin your life and never go away? How you can't even sit anymore? Because people see you next to a love seat and wonder? Do you see how insane that is? A lie that we know is a lie? But we'll work our way to figure out how we can make it true, you know? So just please, I mean, look, we watched the debate, and it was everything from a little bit boring at times to thrilling. We shouldn't even be debating like this anymore, to be honest with you. We've ruined the debate. The debate is too much like a chess game now, where it's like 90 seconds, make your move, make your move. That's not how you solve problems. When you go back before debates were televised, the people that showed up were willing to be there for hours. And the candidates had a long time to lay out their position. So there actually wasn't as much of a chance to fully dodge questions, because they were like, what are you going to do about immigration? And you have until you figure it out. But when it's 90 seconds, you can be like, what are you going to do about immigration? Well, I believe is time up yet? No. They used to take forever, because that's as long as it takes to figure out a problem. And it's as long as it takes to figure out what someone's real piece on something is, you know? If you could figure out big problems in 90 seconds, we probably wouldn't have any, you know? So just watching this thing of like, it feels crazy. It makes me feel crazy, because I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna work. They're not gonna make us feel like they have a plan in 90 seconds, you know? And there's too much of an opportunity to get derailed, you know? There was one point where it felt like maybe the only time in the debate where Kamala seemed a little angry. There was only one point, and I don't even remember exactly what led up to it, but she basically was talking about how Trump, which I forgot this happened, because when you live in like a 24-hour, 36-hour news cycle, everything is just sort of going, and there's no time to latch on to anything that matters, and there's no time for like real nuance of an issue. You're just going and going and going. But he did invite the Taliban to Camp David. And I remember when that happened being like, aren't they not supposed to be? The Taliban. Okay. And I remember that moment distinctly because out of nowhere, Kamala turned to Trump and said, this. And you can tell she's trying to find a word that won't get bleeped. And I know it because she had to reset. She actually closed her eyes for a second. This. Once again, as someone who was raised by black women, anytime my mama looked at me and went, you. In her mind, she killed me. You know, in her mind, my life flashed before her eyes. She would come back. This former president. All right, that one will work. You know, she pointed out something that we all saw. We just didn't seem to remember, or maybe it wasn't that big of a deal at the time, you know. It's important to remember that we're not like just playing teams. It feels very much like teams, which I think is why so many people are like dug in, and no matter what happens, they're like, I'm not switching teams, but this is not a game, and we're not chess pieces. You know, it's very important. You register to vote. It's very important that you go vote and everything, because it's not going to be won by memes. You know, you can't like internet your way to fixing everything. You know, because I don't know. I don't know how everyone in this room feels or anyone watching feels. I just know that like I just want to feel comfortable with who is representing me out in the world and in front of the country. I want someone who is willing to maybe move a little bit like I would move. Maybe play chess the way I play chess. And I'm not even good at chess. You know, I just, you know, we all, everyone, no matter where you fall on party lines or anything, everybody wants somebody with a plan. And they asked them. They asked him, it's you want to repeal and replace Obamacare, and you say that you have a plan. We're asking right now, what is your plan and how would you enact it? And he didn't answer the first time. But when they asked again, they were like, after 9 years, what is your plan to repeal and replace Obamacare? Because I need to be clear here that like, if something is a good idea, a really good idea, I don't care what party it comes from. If something is a smart idea, because I am not playing teams, because I don't feel like this is a game. This feels very real. The things that get said in a presidential debate that are funny, that are a joke for a little while, lead to death threats and bomb threats in real life. All of this is real. So if somebody has a plan and it's a good plan, not only will I hear it out, I might even help them try to make it happen, because it helps a lot of people and it gets us somewhere, right? And so they asked him, after 9 years trying to repeal and replace Obamacare, what is your plan? And he was like, look, I have concepts of a plan. I'm starting to feel like if he had repealed and replaced Obamacare back when he was president, not only would we not have health care, but but I'm pretty sure our doctors would shoot us.
Put your hands together for Josh Johnson, everybody.
Like, I've been traveling a lot, and in traveling, it's hard when you're an adult to look at things that you experienced when you were a kid and not recontextualize them when you get more information. When you're a little kid, the world is face value. Everything that's happening is happening because I guess it's supposed to, or because that's what people do, or everything's very simple when you're a little kid, and then you get older and you see different things, and you look back, you know, and you're like, wow, that's what was going on when I thought things were just normal, you know? And I've been experiencing that a lot with around America with the dollar stores. There are three types of dollar stores. There is Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, and Dollar General. Now, an honorable mention does go out to the 99-cent store. The 99-cent store I want to discuss first, because the 99-cent store is completely unhinged. First of all, they don't have inventory at the 99-cent store. They have what they have, and you either found it or you didn't. You know that you found it or you didn't because what they showcase outside the 99-cent store doesn't make any sense at all. It's just up to the discretion of that, like, franchise owner. The 99-cent store, the store will be here, right? And then they'll just put 2 shower curtains and then 16 potted plants out front. What is this place? Then you walk in and it's like, it's like if somebody truly made a business out of garage. Because when you walk in, nothing has like a designated spot or anything. There are things hanging on hooks I didn't even remember had hooks. I forgot that each broom I've owned had like a little hook to it. But then when you walk into the 99-cent store, almost like a beaded curtain, you walk through brooms hitting you in your face. The 99-cent store that I went to was so big. It was way too big. It was a warehouse of trash. It was like a hoarder died and then they tried to sell everything. Because the 99-cent store I went to had a stick man. It had a man who would get to the tallest stuff at the top. And this was the worst stick man in stick man history. Like, admittedly, some of y'all don't know what I'm talking about, and this is a black thing. Like, this is mainly where we shop. There is a stick man. But, like, the stick man was not good at all, because you're used to a stick man getting up there and unhooking something with precision, bringing it down. You know, he might even drop the stick a little bit, catching his hand, hand it to you, right? This stick man was over here. I can't tell if he was nearsighted or farsighted, but he could not see what he was sticking. This man was over here battling. You'd be like, can I get the one up there? He's like, yeah, I got you right now. I got you right now, young blood. Then it falls on the ground. He pick it up, dust it off. No, our stick man was trash, and he had. Okay, look. I need glasses. All right. I'm not better than anybody. I'm not judging. Everybody got their own prescription and that's their cross to bear, all right? But he had the most specific eyes I have ever seen in my entire life. This man had one Coke bottle and one that was very thin. Like, just It seemed like he just needed a monocle, but he was like, nah, I don't trust myself to hold it on my cheek like that. Go ahead and give me glasses and just make one glass transparent glass. Because he clearly only had one bad eye. Like, it's his eye, like this eye had to be good, because when you would look at him, one eye looked like he was doing this to you, right? Like one eye looked super big and the other eye looked regular. But then when you saw him, when he would turn, you could see both of his eyes were regular size eyes. So that was just the glass. And so he had one like coat, but thick, bulletproof glass on this side, and then one that was very, very thin, right? He would knock stuff over and go pick it up and everything. And he worked at the 99-cent store since maybe before time. This man had been there a very long time. He might still be there now, I don't know. But everything that's there is not like quality. You know what I mean? It's literally 99 cents in today's economy. This stuff isn't even just made in China. This is up off the floor in China. This is the stuff that they throw away in China, that they were like, you want this? All right. If you sure. This is how you could tell these are the worst products ever made in the history of humanity. They are so toxic that whatever you touch, whatever color it is, that's the color you are when you get done touching it. If you touch a green broom, you will pull back a Shrek hand, all right? I had a green broom and a blue dustpan because they were sold separately, you know? Goodness forbid you package them together and they're $1.19. You know what I mean? They were like, we can't have that. We'll have each for 99 cents. And then I bought the green broom and the blue dustpan, and one hand was Martian Manhunter and the other hand was Smurf. I couldn't get my hands back to normal for days. I don't know what they painted that with. Spray paint comes out easier. 99-cent store is trash. And then you get to Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree made the guarantee a long time ago that everything would be $1, and they were the first to break that promise. You want a lesson in life not being fair? You go as a child to the Dollar Tree and buy one of their very illegal, individually packaged Capri Suns. Capri Sun they don't sell them like this. You're not supposed to do this. That's how I knew I was broke sometimes. Like you a kid going into the Dollar Tree for a Lucy Capri Sun. It's terrible, but like, and you know, they don't put them on the shelf. You gotta know if you know. And so you go up there, you like, all right. Feel like I'm buying weed or something. I'm over here, come on, sip, come on. You miming it, you. One time I bought a loose Capri Sun, and the man up in Dollar Tree tried to charge me for the straw. I was like, you are the devil. You are, ooh, I rebuke you. That's crazy. You gonna sell, that's how I can tell you a demon. You gonna sell me the straw separately. What am I supposed to do with this? Suck it with a safety pin? This is crazy. That's insane. This man over here sliding the Capri Sun to me, and I'm looking at him. What's wrong, man? You know, come on. He's like, that's extra, young blood. I'm like, hey, what? From a young age, I could identify with people who rob stores because that was very aggravating. Dollar Tree was over here just, letting themselves run out of inventory. I would go in the Dollar Tree and there'd just be whole spaces, whole sections empty. At least the 99-cent store is packed. Packed to the brim with stuff that doesn't even make sense. The 99-cent store would have one of something, proudly. They'd have one of something and the price tag. There was one time I went to a 99-cent store, I saw one bra. That's crazy. I'm like, that's lost and found, if anything. Y'all don't have a single other bra in here. And you gotta hang the bra next to the snacks. You know you shouldn't be selling this bra. Because Dollar Tree would let themselves run out of like everything, and then you walk in, it's just bare shelves and stuff. At least the 99-cent store would try to make sense of things. 99-cent store doesn't make any real sense at all, and you can tell because sometimes they'll sell stuff that should be sold for a totally different purpose. I've been very confused in a 99-cent store before. One time, I was in a 99-cent store, and on the shelf, it said 99 cents. So far, everything's checking out. It said 99 cents, and then it said hat. It was a hat for 99 cents, right? But then on the shelf, clearly, is a bucket. That's a bucket. It's a bucket, though. Like it is, like I'm not crazy. That's a bucket. You can make it a hat if you want, if you believe, but that's a bucket. All you gotta do is flip this over on its bottom and put bucket, and we don't have any problems. But hat is crazy. And then when I'm checking out, I bought a broom, I bought a dustpan, and then he's like, and one hat? And I was like, you don't believe that, though. There's no way you believe that. Because it's not a hat, it's a bucket. And I want to be clear, it's not even a bucket hat. It is a bucket. A bucket. So then you have Dollar Tree. Then you have Family Dollar. Family Dollar, I've talked about this before. Family Dollar really helped me pinpoint on the map of life where I was. There's a quote, I'm gonna get it wrong, but there's a quote by, I think it was Nikola Tesla, that said that man's grasp, the reach, it's man's grasp, what is it?
Man's grasp exceeds his reach.
Man's grasp exceeds his reach. And I think, it's man's grasp.
Reach exceeds his grasp.
Man's reach exceeds his grasp. I was like never gonna correct you because I didn't know either, but like, as soon as you said something, it did sound. Yeah. I didn't know either. So man's reach exceeds his grasp, and I think that Family Dollar's inventory exceeds its means, because every year of my life, Family Dollar has been trying harder and harder to be a grocery store. Every time I go up in Family Dollar, they add one more item that they should not have at Family Dollar. I remember the day I went in Family Dollar and saw milk, and I was like, no, we not built for this. A lot of people are gonna get sick, okay? I'm a kid, but I'm still trying to tell adults how to run their business. I was like, y'all don't even have the fridge space for this milk. Come on now. And Family Dollar has always helped me keep track, truly, being honest with myself of where I am on this map of life, right? Because at first, I walked in Family Dollar, I saw milk, and I was like, y'all, don't do this. And 2 years later, I was like, let me go ahead and get the milk. 3%, you say? I've never heard of 3% before. That is interesting. I've never had 3% in my life. Maybe I'll get stronger bones. Who knows? So you got Dollar Tree, you got Family Dollar, and then you have Dollar General. Dollar General is the stuff of nightmares. Dollar General is straight out of a horror movie. And I don't say that because of the experiences I've had at Dollar General. I say that because of where they put Dollar Generals. Dollar General will be the last thing you see before you die. And not in a curse sort of way, not in like the Ring sort of way. Dollar General will be put in the middle of a field. Whether you are in the South or the Midwest, the only places Dollar General truly exists and thrives is the middle of nowhere in the South, the middle of nowhere in the Midwest, and the Sahara. I don't know. By the time you see a Dollar General, you're like, is this a mirage? Because I've seen nothing but fields for 30 minutes and then one Dollar General. With a man working there from the 1800s, who knows? Those Dollar General, people that work at Dollar General get bold with you when they're out. When you out in like their area, you at this Dollar General in like Ball, Louisiana. You walk in, it's like, not from around here, huh? It's like, you even talking like the movie. Who says that to a customer? Not even where you from. Not from around here, are you? Oh. Now you can tell a Dollar General is terrifying. Because out of a Dollar Tree and a Family Dollar, I'm just talking about my experiences growing up, you know. Out of a Dollar Tree and a Family Dollar, a Dollar General is the least likely to be robbed, all right? I've seen Dollar Generals, you know, be on the news, not for being robbed, for the attempt. Do you know the horror that has to go down for the attempt of a robbery to make the actual news? Nothing got stolen, but everything that happened was still so bad that it made the news. There was a dude who was on the news. I'm pretty sure it was Dollar General. And this dude made the news because they ran up in the Dollar General trying to rob it, which also not a great plan. Dollar General doesn't exactly have a lot of sales going on. And so for all the sales they do have going on, let's just say no Dollar General I've heard of needs a safe, all right? And so to run up at a Dollar General to rob it, you already expecting to run out with like $26, okay? But this man ran up at a Dollar General trying to rob it, right? And not only did they take his gun, they beat him with his gun.
And then the getaway driver called the police on them. I'm just curious how that went. Because when you run up in a place to rob it, you at least have what one would hope is the element of surprise. You would hope a place doesn't get robbed so often that they are ready like Neo from the Matrix to snatch the gun out of your hand as soon as you walk in. I'm sure people going in to rob a place have like a rob and walk or like a gun-toting bravado maybe. But imagine being robbed so often that you're like, no, when they come back. Because this is the thing that blows my mind, is that we're in the South, and this dude ran up in a Dollar General to rob it, and they didn't shoot him. The South loves guns. We love guns. And we, like a fever dream, wish we could shoot someone. And then here is someone running in with a gun to do evil. Someone that the law would say, shoot. And the employees at the Dollar General were like, actually, I really prefer hands. Imagine how crazy you have to be, how bad of a week you must be having for somebody to run up in there with a gun out to rob you, and you go, this is exactly what I needed. You know what? Let me tell you something about the Lord, all right? The Lord won't put more on you than you can bear, okay? And the Lord knew people had been trying me all week. People I wasn't allowed to hit. People that I could never put my hands on. And so then the Lord sent you to me at work, the place I hate most, to go ahead and take out a week's worth of frustration on you with the butt of this sawed-off shotgun. Imagine you run into a Dollar General to rob it, gun already out. Hey, everybody freeze, whatever he said. And then the employees turn and he's like, open the register. And they're just smiling. You don't know what happens next. Maybe a blackout, maybe you watch them take the gun out of your hands because you weren't expecting that. And then you see the butt of the gun coming back real slow. I'm sure the next part is a blur. I'm sure all you really know is you hear yourself getting whooped. It's almost like an out-of-body experience. You forget, was this my gun the whole time? It's not acting like my gun. You wake up. The police are standing over you, and you haven't been arrested. Because all the damage was done to you. Oh, Dollar General, it's insane. It's crazy, too, because every once in a while, Dollar General will buy a store that used to be a nice store. Like, it used to be like a dope store. Like, truly, it used to be, like, crazy. Like, I remember there was a place I went with my grandma, and I don't even remember the name. That's how, like, little I was, where it was just a memory of being with her holding my hand, and us walking into this place. And you know how when your little things are bigger? So I'm sure if I went there now, it would look like the size of a regular department store. But she took me to this place, and it was huge. In my head, it was so big, right? And she bought some socks, she bought some other stuff and everything, and then we left. And I remember when I would ride with her, because, you know, I would go with my grandma during the summers or after school. My mom would drop me off at my grandma's because she would still be working and stuff. And so when I'd run errands with my grandma, we'd pass that place over and over. And I'd always want to go back inside because I had such a fun memory of like, there were so many toys. It's just huge, right? And it had closed. And so my grandma would remind me every time that it had closed, right? And then eventually it became like a dollar store, like a chain dollar store. And I remember it being like, man, that place was cool. And now they sell 3% milk. Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to put this. I told my friends a story a long time ago about how my friend met this woman online, right? And this was back when meeting people online was still like not quite done. It was still new to do that. And the woman that he met wanted to meet up one night, which is exciting because this is why you do it. And she said she wanted to meet up, and he was like, where do you want to meet? And she was like, oh, behind the library. Which should have been a clue. Said she wanted to meet behind the library, and he was like, oh, okay. Which library? Because so she told him which branch. And then they met up, and it just took him too long to realize he was being robbed. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just... Like, even when he showed up and it was two dudes, he was like, but where's Sarah? It's like, You need to wake up, dude. Sarah's a fiction. And that's the way that I feel about Trump federalizing DC. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I was watching it this morning and watching them talk about it, and it was an interesting speech because you would have thought he would have stayed on crime the whole time, but he definitely diverted a few times. Like there was one point where I really don't like. I'm not even joking right now. I genuinely don't understand what he was trying to say, because there was one point where he was talking about how like trans people fight or something, and it just started to feel like the kind of conversation you have with someone who is 2,000 years old. Like it just... It was weird. It was like he, because it came out of nowhere. It wasn't like part of the thing. And then people, are obviously like worried, terrified, confused and everything. Because there are people who are like, he can't do that. That's not legal. And whenever I hear that, I'm like, what are you, a Democrat? Like, this is the goofiest. That's illegal. It's like, all right. That's what my buddy said when he was getting robbed, too. He was like, well, this is illegal. Stop. Out of your mind. hey, that's illegal. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But what are you gonna do about it? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. That's a question that Democrats constituents ask. That's a question that Trump is asking. That's a question on everybody's mind right now. If you oppose what he's doing, what are you gonna do about it? You know? And I don't know. I'm not gonna act like I know what to do at all because I genuinely don't. I mean, I know that people protested today off of the announcement, off the fact that, like, just imagine you live in D.C. and Trump says he's gonna, like, deploy the National Guard. And you just, like, not only is crime at this, like, 25, 30-year low, but, like, you just got to the point where you were probably starting to feel kind of safe on the street, and now it's gonna be the National Guard looking at you every day, confused why they're there too. You know? People forget that the armed forces, like obviously, you know, soldiers are supposed to follow orders and everything like that, but the armed forces are filled with people of differing backgrounds and opinions and everything. So it's not as if everybody that ever gets deployed is excited to be deployed. And it's not as if they're always well taken care of when they are deployed. You know, these people, they signed up to do a service for their country. I'm curious how they feel about being deployed against the people that they're supposed to protect instead of against, like, some foreign invader or something. You know, I'm not gonna act like I know. I've never served or anything, but I've talked to people in the service, and they come from all different types of backgrounds. They vote in all different types of ways, and I'm sure that if you're walking down the streets of D.C. feeling disheartened, feeling like you're being occupied, there's probably somebody standing there as you walk into work that's like, yeah. I don't know, because it has been on my mind all day, and trying to figure out how to not just like talk about it, but say something more than just like, I think that might be bad. Like, I think that we're having a moment a lot like my friend had, where it's like you just have to be very aware of what's happening, because to not be aware doesn't mean the thing will go away, you know? Like, we don't want to be behind a library going, "Where's Sarah?" for our entire democracy. Because that's, yeah. I think that's the thing that I find so, like, aggravating about it, is that he is a person that tells you what he's gonna do, and then he does it. And then there are people who supposedly like him that are positive he's not gonna do the thing they said he was gonna do. They're like, no, he won't do that though. And it's like, then why would he say it? He trolling. Like, he's just like, all right, but what if he's not? No, he wouldn't do the thing he said he'd do. Who does that? You know? Because I'm not gonna act like I know what to do. And I think it's more important for everyone should know who, on every level, their representatives are, and what they do for you, and what they're doing for you right now. And it's easier to hold those people to account when you know who they are. You know what I mean? Like your state senator, or everything down to, like, you know, alderman. Everything. Because it's the fact that these people go unnoticed, the fact that we expect whoever, business people, celebrities, whatever it is, to pick up the slack of the people that were elected to do those jobs, all right? Like we're in a position now as a country that's very scary because we look to companies to do some of the work that local government should be able to do. And now we've stripped resources from local government to the point where you do need who knows, Amazon to come in and bring in jobs, because how are we going to get jobs now? Or you need on a state level companies that you give everything to, and they give you very little for the resource that you're missing, you know? And so now we're at a point where some of our infrastructure is completely buckled without us really realizing it. You know, there's been such an influx of money into the economy because of AI and because of the gamble and the race to be number one in AI that all these companies are making. There's been such a rush to build and fill these data centers that money is flowing in a way that, you know, the effect of the tariffs isn't fully being felt. The economy and the like 5 top businesses in the S&P 500 are now carrying most of the weight of the S&P 500. Like we're at a point that's close to tipping, and it's very important for the people to be held accountable. They're actually accountable. You know, it gets very easy to divert and get mad at this person or notice that this person said something, whatever it is. It's the actual people who vote on these things, who have the power to say yes or no to large companies, knowing that you know where they are and what they do, that holds them to account. As long as you are distracted or you're blaming whatever, the person to blame when it's too late, then things are going to stay the same. You know, representatives, to me, work a lot like when you're out with your friends, and let's say you're like young too, maybe you're like 21, out at a bar or a club for the first time. You don't have any experience with this stuff. You're just the 4 or 5 of you guys all together, buddies in college, going out to like a bar or a club for the first time. You don't really know. You don't have any swag yet. Don't have a ton of confidence. All you know is you see 4 or 5 beautiful ladies across the room, and so you think to yourselves, oh, well, what should we do? One of us should say hello. We should say hello, you know, and then maybe they'll want to come over here, or maybe we can go over there, but it should just be one. If it's all 5 of us, that's just, ooh. You have enough wherewithal to know that all 5 of you approaching at the same time maybe isn't the move. 5 horny men approaching all together. Ooh, doesn't come off well. You know what I mean? If all 5 of you are... It's not going to go fantastic. You know that. So you decide, I'm going to we'll send a representative. One of us, the best of us, to make us look good. We'll send them over there. He'll charm everybody, and then we'll walk over and reap the benefits of his hard work. Or maybe he'll be so charming that he'll invite them over to our table, and then we can order drinks for us and them. But we'll know that we sent him, he did a good job, and then he'll come back to us. And so your friends, they start campaigning. They start campaigning with promises, you know? No, I can go over there. I can do it. It's like, no, listen, Daryl, you blink too much, all right? You blink way too much, all right? You gonna run up in there, they gonna think it's a bomb under them or something. You blinking too much. You blinking now. Stop blinking so much. We can't send you over there. You look nervous right now. And so then the group nominates Mark. Mark has at least had a girlfriend. He knows how to talk to women. He's had a girlfriend, he has sisters, and a mom. He knows what to do. Let's get Mark over there. So Mark, elected by the group, goes over there, you know. And even before he walks over, he says something that Mark would say. You know, he stands up and he's like, hey guys, thank you so much. All right, your faith in me means a lot. I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna do my best for us, for all of us, okay? I appreciate you all so much, and look, I'm gonna do my darndest. Who knows what the result will be, but your faith in me means the world. No matter what, we're gonna have a great night tonight, okay? See y'all in a second. And then he goes over, he makes his approach. And because Mark is engaging, he's sweet, and he's interesting, he's easy to talk to. And because he's extroverted and he's outgoing, he knows how to approach without creeping or intimidating. And so quickly, you see these 5 ladies having what looks like a really good conversation with Mark. Things are looking up. This is incredible. The body language is phenomenal. Mark is over here working the room. And then Mark makes that motion and he points at y'all. Y'all weren't ready. You didn't know. Everyone was about to look over here. And so Mark points over at you and you're like, Mark turns around and keeps chatting, and after a while, things start to slow down. You don't really know why, but some nods and still a couple of laughs. And then Mark, he doesn't beckon you over. He doesn't give the thumbs up like they're about to head back with him. And he comes back, he sits down, and your dumbest friend is like, how'd it go? And Mark says, well, fellas, they all have husbands. But Mark did his best. And that's not actually his fault. He tried, right? You can send a representative. They can promise to do something, and maybe the thing is bigger than the promise that they made. That is possible. That they tried as hard as somebody could try. And they didn't deliver because the circumstances weren't there. But let's talk about a different scenario, a more common scenario. Maybe Mark was sick. He wasn't even there. He's at home. Your buddy Chet is campaigning. And Chet campaigns on some pretty jarring promises. He's like, look, I'm gonna go over there, all right? I'm gonna be like, what's up? Be like, hey, ladies. You know, that'll get their attention real quick, because I'm gonna pop up right in. I'm not even gonna just like stroll up. I'm gonna walk up and then I'm gonna clear those last 2 steps real fast, really get in their face. Bow, right? Like that. What's up, lady? And I'm just gonna tell them what it is. I'm like, you could have a boring night, or you could have a night with us. And look, Chet is the loudest. He's the loudest. He's the most adamant with the supposedly strongest campaign. And so you elect him, he unfortunately becomes your representative. And you see him off, and he doesn't give a speech like Mark did. He gives a speech like, all right. Next time you see me, I'm be smelling like perfume, all right? And then he walks over, and you see him walk over, and his approach is startling. Because he can't just walk over. He's doing like he's doing a walk that's like kind of Denzel, but if Denzel was severely hurt. You know, Denzel has that swag to his walk. Chet is over here. And then he does what he said he was gonna do. He walks up, and you can't really hear him, but you can see the body language. You don't hear him give his little speech, but you can tell when he gives it because everybody slapped him. And then he walks back over. He sits down. And your dumbest friend goes, how'd it go? And he's like, man, let's get out of here. Everybody's stuck up in here. And it does feel like that's where we are. Yeah, I mean, we're in a pretty bad situation. There's way more Chets than there are Marks. You know, because I used to look around, especially when I first started touring, even when I was in some of the worst, you know, motels, hotels, like some of the worst, like. But I did. The first time I ever got a chance to travel this country at all and meet new people who were from new places that I had never been to before. Not only did I have a good time because I was having these new experiences, but I really felt like I was seeing something really, really beautiful. Everybody wasn't happy and everybody didn't get along. I'm not like pining for a time that didn't exist. I'm just saying that like really getting out for the first time in my life all those years ago felt a lot like walking through that department store with my grandma. It was really special. I look back on it fondly, and I am genuinely afraid that we've gone from that to a dollar store that sells 3% milk.
Mira, I try to be an optimistic person, I really do. But this does feel like a weird year to have Christmas. This feel like the type of year where you gonna go to bed December 24th and wake up and it's December 26th. You know what I mean? Not just Christmas, all the holidays. It feels kind of wild. All the holidays. It's like, all right, I guess we gotta try. All of it. I don't know a single person that's excited for their holiday coming up. Everybody's like, and I gotta do this. No, not at all. You know, I try though. Try to bring some joy back, some whimsy. You know, I've been going to the mall in every city that we've been going to. If I can make it to the mall, I go to the mall. Y'all remember the mall? It's like Amazon with rooms. No. And when I go to the mall now, especially this time of year, I look for Santa. You know what I mean? Because nobody's going to Santa anymore. It's actually really sad. Like no, you go to the mall and no one's going to Santa at all. It's like we've lost it socially. Like it's not happening. Even when you look at social, you're seeing less and less people post pictures with their kids with Santa and stuff like that. Like we're just not doing Santa. I don't even know if they tell kids about Santa anymore. It seems like they don't tell kids about Santa. My friends have kids. And I don't know a single kid that's like, oh, I'm hoping Santa brings me. All of them got an Amazon wish list. They all. We've lost it. We've lost that like touch of whimsy. We have, you know, now the kid knows. The kid had the wish list, had it all picked out, emailed you. And now if everything not on the list, they're like, I guess times must be tough. Like the thing, this is what Santa did for our parents, right? Santa was this little gap where like some real magic could happen. You came up with your list, right? And you were polite. Because Santa's a stranger. You don't want to come off greedy. And so you would write down a few things that you would love for Christmas. You would even scratch stuff out. People would pour, kids that I knew would pour so much attention over, they would stress over their Christmas list. They would go over and over again, they scratch stuff. I know I actually want that. You see this little piece of paper, by the end of the day, it was unrecognizable. So many scratches, and then writing over, and then scratching, and then misspelling, and now you gotta rewrite it, because what if you misspell it, and Santa doesn't know what that is? You know? And so, you would write this letter, and then your parents would be like, we'll mail it to Santa for you. You're like, thank you so much. You already doing a lot. That trip to the... I remember my mom was like, I'll send this to Santa. And I was like, you really a saint. You know that? Like, you are, because you knew I wasn't going to make it to the post office on my own. Like, you really doing me a solid right now. I'm going to go back to playing with these blocks, but I won't forget this. You a real sweetheart, you know. Truly. And then Christmas would come, and the presents were wrapped. And even if you stayed up, there were a lot of parents out who were too crafty. You couldn't catch them, you know. Yeah, you would think you were staying up too. You would think you were like, I better go to sleep, because if you're awake, Santa won't come, which was kind of true. I was like, all right. Okay. And then, you go to sleep. I remember one time I went to sleep. This was Christmas Eve. Went to sleep. Woke up middle of the night. I was terrified. I was like, he gotta know this one not my fault. Like, he gotta. And I woke up because I needed to go to the bathroom. And so I was laying in bed and I was like, I think I'm gonna have to wet this one. I think I'm gonna have to. It's not worth Christmas, all right? I can try to hold it as long as I don't dream about water. I think I'll be all right, but if I get up and then Santa hear my feet, that might be a wrap for the whole year. I've been good all year, not for nothing. I was good all year, and he was watching this stuff, so I'm probably gonna get everything that I asked for, so I can't risk that over a little tinkle, And so then Christmas Day comes. Wow. Christmas Day is here. You wake up excited for Christmas, but even more excited that you see sunlight. It means you can finally pee. And so you bust out of the bed and you run to the bathroom and the door is closed. Someone's in there. And you're like, all right, I've waited for hours. I guess I can wait a little longer. They come out of the bathroom. They're like, Merry Christmas. There's no time. All right. You rush past them, slam the door. You come out. After you wash your hands, you're like, I'm sorry about that. All right. I've been dealing with a lot. Christmas morning, it's time to open presents. You sitting there and you see a bunch of boxes. You see a bunch of boxes, and some of them aren't even boxes. Some of them just gift wrap lumps. And the lumps worry you because you're like, I don't think I asked for anything lumpy. I don't know. This might be for somebody else. He might be confused. You sit down, and maybe every family does it differently. Maybe each person opens a gift and they all take turns, and you're all like, that's great for you. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe you get to open all yours and someone gets to open all theirs and everything. And I was the only child, and I was the first grandbaby in I think a decade or something. So it really was like my mom, my aunt, my dad, my grandma, my grandpa were all in on Christmas for just me. I was so blessed that they really were excited to see me open these gifts. I didn't have to I never had to fight for that sort of attention or anything. They were very excited to see my reaction, right? Which is a blessing, and let's just call it a double-edged sword. Because now, without me realizing, there's a bunch of pressure for me to like every gift because each gift was from one of them, And so I started opening gifts. And, there were some years where I was very blessed. I had a bunch of gifts, some years where I got a few gifts, but they were exactly what I wanted, So I started opening gifts, and maybe my grandma would hand me one and be like, this is from Santa, I'd be like, all right. I'd start opening it. And I remember the year. A Nintendo 64. I didn't know how unproductive my life was about to get. I didn't know. Ooh, I was about to have a rough year in math. Because they got me an N64 and they got me Diddy Kong Racing. A true N64 classic. I didn't know it at the time, but I was a part of history. I would lose thousands of hours like many children to a game where you could either play as a plane, a car, or like a little hovercraft tubing thing, which really didn't make any sense. Like love that game so much. I played it for hours Christmas Day. And then, I didn't play it right away. There were other gifts to open. This was a beautiful Christmas, right? I remember I got handed one of the lumpy ones. It also said from Santa, right? And I was like, okay. And I opened it, and it was 2 shirts. Not to sound ungrateful, but as someone with shirts, I was like, ooh, okay, wow, and it fits me just right. I know he wrote Josh, but he must have meant another name. This needs to go to someone who doesn't have shirts. Because then when you would open these gifts, you would think back to when you went to see Santa and you told him about this, and he was like, oh, yes, that sounds doable. Well, if you've been good this year, then you have nothing to worry about, right? And then you would think back to that thing when you open the gift and you're like, oh, this is what he was talking about. He said I didn't have anything to worry about and my man came through. And then, as the years pass, you find out. You find out, and like Christmas, it doesn't necessarily lose its magic. It just morphs into a different thing. Because one thing that my family would do, I don't know about anybody else, because there are some families where I completely understand. I really don't judge how you try to enjoy the holiday or raise your family, but there are some people that I knew growing up who Santa didn't come to their house because their parents were like, no, I got it. Oh, please believe I didn't work overtime to give the credit to the man at the mall. No, daddy got you that. I remember one time my friend's dad was talking about it, and because he had said something about like, but what about when Santa comes? That's like all I heard of the conversation. But what about when Santa comes? And he was like, Santa work 1 month out of the year. I work all 12. I'm handling it. I remember this is like right at the cusp of me finding out, right? So this is like right before I found out, okay? But I remember being like, I was still a kid. I wasn't like itty bitty. I was where you start putting it together. And because, I come from this area in the South, I come from Louisiana, and I'm blessed to be raised by all of these educators and everything, and just like living down south, you'll experience it sooner or later. And then sometimes your parents try to shield you by arming you with the knowledge of what the world is like before you have to experience a part of it yourself. And so I was being taught about segregation, about how my grandmother was treated when she was a kid, about what laws there used to be in the place that we live. That they were telling me how this thing wasn't that long ago, that people would try to make it seem like ancient history, but a lot of those people are still alive for it, which means it's more recent than they're comfortable with, you know? And I was finding out about segregation right around the time that I saw a black Santa and a white Santa. That's how I remember going to the mall that year and seeing Santa, and he was white. And I sat in his lap like all those other years, you know, and I don't know, I was just thinking to myself, as a little kid, you know, I was just thinking to myself, like, yeah, this is progress, you know what I mean? Like, we always... Because also, you're so little when you were going to Santa, especially in the 90s, when you would go to Santa, that it was a whole other year later. You didn't really put it together that this Santa didn't look like the last Santa. Santa would change it wasn't until I had almost figured it out that I was like, oh, Santa, how you been? This man's like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, you just, you know. You just look a little different than. Like, what different? How do you mean? And it's like that was on him. That was like follow-up questions. It's not my fault anymore. How do you mean? I was like, oh, you don't know? And I guess if you don't feel different, you're not different. But yeah, last time you just had, you know, a glow about you. You know what I mean? Like, because not everybody had the same loving experiences with Santa that I did. I'm aware some people had their bad, you know, their bad experiences. You know, like my friend wrote a letter to Santa because that's how his parents had him do it. He was like, they were like trying to teach him letter writing and penmanship and everything. They were like, you got to write a letter to Santa, and the letter to Santa has to be clear, it has to be legible, and you have to write it like a letter. Dear Santa, say exactly what you want, and make sure you sign off sincerely yours, your name, right? Write a letter. And so he wrote a letter to Santa, and then he didn't get what he wanted that year, and he was so disappointed. You know, that the next year, this is what they made him do every year. The next year, he wrote a letter to Santa again, but instead of making requests, this time he was just sort of airing his grievances. He was just sort of airing his grievances about the prior year. So he wrote this letter to Santa. He was like, Dear Santa, I'll kill you. You think you can play with me? I was good all year last year, and you didn't bring anything I wanted. You just brought me stuff that my parents told me that I should buy with the money from my lemonade stand. How are you gonna take their side over mine? Thanks for nothing. Good for nothing. Santa. Sincerely yours, Roger. And of course, his parents read the letter, and then he got in trouble. And he felt even more betrayed. He was like, "You read my letter to Santa? Is there no justice?" That was a private conversation. And you over here meddling. And so when I go to the mall and I see Santa, it hits different. I remember all of these like special experiences I had with Santa at the mall, right? And then I see Santa over there, and they don't even have him in prime real estate anymore. They got Santa in the back of the mall. They put him in the back, they put him in the corner. They put Santa in the mall the same places that the airport put Spirit Airlines, where they unless you got a ticket, unless you got a boarding pass, you won't find this area at all. Even with a boarding pass, you always in the wrong area. How you gonna have a terminal 4.5? You know Spirit Airlines, it's the Waffle House of airlines. I've actually flown Spirit plenty times, and I love to see a fight. I love to see a fight. Because here's the thing. And I know Spirit gets like a bad reputation because basically everything that is happening on other airlines is just happening on Spirit, but Spirit takes you to a place where you're willing to go to jail. Like you just like you're like ready. You know what I mean? You ready. And so a fight on Spirit Air, because I'll give you an example. I've seen a bunch of almost fights on Delta. I've seen a lot of almost fights on Delta because what Delta will do is that they will put your layover, they'll make your layover 12 seconds. So you'll leave, you did everything you're supposed to do. You got to the airport on time, you went through TSA, and then you board, and then you take off, and then you land. And you knew it because they did it on your other boarding pass. They were like, oh, the time that you're taking off is the time that you're landing. They're the same time. They're the same. And when you look at it initially, you're like, oh, I must gain an hour. No, it's no time zone difference. Yeah, and so then you land, and you land panicked. You land because you're missing it. You land and you're late. You're already late. And so you want to get off the plane as soon as possible. And you will ask the flight attendant even, you'll be like, as you're boarding, be like, I have a very, very tight connection. Can you please make that announcement y'all make sometimes about people who, you don't have to say my name, like people who have tight connections, so that if people could sit and then let them leave first and everything, so they have a chance to make it. So they have a chance. You remember chances? And I remember the last time I asked a flight attendant to do this, because my entire group, we had such a tight layover that I was like, it is a significant amount of people on the plane that have to get to the next gate, which isn't close, because that's also too much to ask. It would be crazy if you landed and you had to go next door, right? It's like, no, if you got a layover, the fun of a layover is running. The fun of a layover is running, you know what I mean? It's not a layover if you don't exercise. It's not a layover. Okay. This is probably gonna be where you turn on me, but look. There was a flight I was on one time where where we landed was my final destination. But those people had like a tight layover. So then they made the announcement. And when they make the announcement, I just sit. I do my best to just sit. Unless the person who needs to get out is like in the window or something. Now I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is also why it doesn't work. Because a bunch of the people that don't have the layover didn't all have aisle seats. Like you basically pushed a bunch of people into the aisle to try to get around them. We might as well all just leave now. You know what I mean? We're actually holding it up now by other people letting you be like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And like letting you pass where there's no room. Aisles weren't made for people. It was made for one person. So when someone's getting by, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. It's my bad. Sorry. You're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it. And so there was this family, tight layover, right? Not sitting together. Not sitting together at all. And everybody is doing the best they can. I'm not saying they should have planned and sat together or anything like that. Maybe there really wasn't the possibility. Maybe by the time they were buying tickets, it was just a bunch of single seats, you know? And so the family, which was like a big family. It was a Kevin McAllister amount of family. It was crazy. This family had every aisle seat down the entire plane, right? Like it wasn't a big plane. It was one of those where it wasn't just the 2 seats. It wasn't that small, but within the 3 seats, it didn't go back that far. It probably had like 30 rows or something like that. But it just straight up like 15 people together needed to get off to go to the same flight. And I knew that because they were talking to each other as we were landing. They were yelling like up and behind each other and talking to each other as we were landing. And they all had the shade up and they were all like, yep, we close. Like it's And so then we land, they make the announcement, please let these people go, right? So then these people are trying to get out from their middle seat without the other person getting up. So before the other person can even offer to get up and get in the aisle to make room for them, they're like, I'm so sorry. Sorry. Right? If you climb me, don't say excuse me. Do you know what I mean? Like if you give me, if I'm sitting. I'm sitting. I'm sitting next to you, sitting like a Christian, sitting. And then you get up and you don't even know what you're trying to give me. You don't know if it should be the back or the front because you don't know how nimble you are, right? They're both bad in their own way. They're both horrible. Because if I'm sitting and then you got to get over me and now you over here just foot in front of the face and you just fighting to not sit in my lap. You over here, if I miss the lap, it's fine somehow. Everything is fine now. And I gotta sit there like that didn't happen. That's crazy. I don't know what's worse. I've had back and I've had front. Front is crazy because front is a relationship. I've had people stand up middle seat, turn around. That's what happened on this flight. Turn around to talk to the person behind who's also in their party, and was like, we got 6 minutes. We got 6 minutes, and it's at another terminal, so we're gonna have to run, right? And then, before I can even unbuckle my seatbelt, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Climbed over me front facing. Whole time I got posted up like this, posted up elbow. Trying to block something. Falls on me. Then gets up, gets in the aisle. I was like, where are you going? We married now. And so they were running, right? all running out and everything, because they all pretty much did the same thing. Some of them were nimble. Some of them were like, you know what I mean? All running down the aisle. People actually were sitting and not getting up and letting them go. There's a real show of humanity. You know what I mean? I guess the other people on the plane were like, yes, we are here, so we'll wait the other 30. Usually society falls apart in that moment. You know? But let everybody get off. And then in first class was someone who I assume was the grandfather figure of the group. But they hadn't sent the wheelchair down the jet bridge yet. And so Grandpa was sitting in like row 2, aisle C, watching his family run. And then one of them bringing up the rear was like, Grandpa, come on. And he was like, did you forget? And you can see it's like, I don't know, this is me projecting, but it felt like a very like son-in-law situation. Like the way that Grandpa was talking to him, it felt like he married in, because this, unless he just really doesn't respect his own blood like that, this was crazy, right? Did you forget? And then he's like, okay, I'll see if they can send a wheelchair down and everything. And he was like, go without me. Just go. I don't know what trip they were trying to make. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I genuinely, there are some people who save up for years to go somewhere exotic, somewhere they've always dreamed of going, or maybe they want to bring their family. There are some people who get the opportunity to go places because it's being gifted to them. There's someone that's bringing their whole family somewhere. I can't imagine the stress this family was under to just be scrambling off the plane like that, right? All I know is that this man, he said, go without me. And this man cupped the back of his neck, knelt down and tried to put his arm under his knees, and got ready to try to pick Grandpa up and run with him. Panic is one thing, but like, never let panic give you confidence. Because look, I'm just telling you what I saw, I'm not judging, but Grandpa was built like Santa. And bro was built like me. So the idea that he was gonna pick this man up and run down a terminal to a terminal in 6 minutes is a delusion. You have a spell on your mind if you think you're making it. He got Grandpa legs right about here. Grandpa over here. And we all heard it, they being loud too. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing implies I don't want to be picked up. What are you doing? You know what he's doing. You grown. You know what he's doing. But what are you doing is your way of saying stop, right? And I don't know. He believes in himself. He's trying to make the flight. He bends his knees and gives it a shot. It's crazy when you pick somebody up, like, I don't know, marriage style. I don't know what this is, but like when you pick somebody up like bride style like that, their eyes and your eyes are like level, right? And so Grandpa over here. Now son-in-law straining. Now he over here. I've never heard somebody muscle tear through their voice. You know what I mean? It's like, Are you done? This man said, put me down. To be fair, he had never really lifted him up. Lower the legs down and everything. And then he was like, go. Son-in-law over here. They bring down the wheelchair. I have no idea if Grandpa made it or not, you know? I don't. I just wondered if like maybe a different airline would have brought a wheelchair faster. Maybe as an airline they only got one wheelchair, so then people have to share frequently, you know. It's tough. It's tough. Back of the airport. Back of the mall. I was walking in the mall. I came across a Santa. No line. No line at all. And really, truly, like, I don't even know when the last time it was that somebody made going to Santa part of their Christmas card. Or I saw it on social, like baby's first, you know, visit to Santa, anything like that. So it does make sense. Nobody here, you know? And so I was like, I'll take a picture with Santa. I do that. Sometimes I'll take a picture with Santa, especially if it's a situation like this. This dude is going to be here for like 8 hours, and he can't be on his phone. Santa can't be on his phone. So I'm like, let me just, you know what I mean? Support. You know, he's done a lot for me. Let me do something for him. And so I walk up, and, you know, I got to register. You know, you got to purchase it from the elves beforehand. Because, you know, capitalism, right? And so I walk up, and... All right, I've done this a few times, right? I've gone to the mall, seen Santa, taken a picture with Santa, right? And how do I put this? They are nice to me in a way that's disrespectful. You know, so I walk up to the elves, and I'm like, hey, I'd love to take a picture with Santa today. And they were like, what package would you like? I was like, oh, I'll take the digital package with like 2 printouts, right? And they're like, you sure you want to do it today? Because I'm going to be honest with you, that's not even the real Santa. Like, he like, no, for real, he like a low-key backup Santa. Like, he's, you know, real Santa got food poisoning. He called in sick, so they called him. But like... And I was like, well, I'm only here today, so yeah, let's do it. He's like, Are you sure? Then the elf pulled out a picture of the other Santa with another family and was like, this is what you're missing out for. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a better Santa. Like, it was like, nah, he had like a twinkle and everything. It was crazy. Like, I don't know if he used Visine for that or something, but it's just, you know what I mean? Like, you could hear it. You could hear, you looked at the picture, it felt like you could hear his dimples. You know what I mean? You know? I was like, well, no, I'm here today. Let's, you know what I mean? Like, my man over here by himself, let's take a picture, right? And they were like, all right. And then I walked up to Santa, and this is my thing. This is what I'm talking about being too nice. I'm a grown man. I told you my name. You don't have to call me buddy this much. This is, we get into some real disrespect here. You know, and I know I don't do myself any favors because I walk up and I guess I'm not presenting like this is just gonna be a chill. I'm excited to see Santa. And I think that's what starts us off on the wrong foot because he's sitting there and then he see me coming and you can see in his eyes he like what always hurt me is they look behind me for a family and they and then, you know, I walk up and once again, yeah, don't do myself any favors because I bust in there. You know, they got the little fenced off area within the fake grass and then all the presents in the tree and stuff like that. And then the trail leading out that is to a line that nobody's in, right? So I walk up and I walk up a little fast. There's no line or anything. I don't know a good pace to walk. I'm not running, but like I'm walking. You know what I mean? I know where I'm going, and y'all made that snake line like it's gonna be the bank. You know what I'm talking about? They got extra fence like there's gonna be a line. There's no line. So then I'm trying to get to it. It's awkward. He's sitting over there. He a maze away. I'm just getting it over with, right? I'm sure from his perspective, because he's being still, it looked like I'm running, but I'm not running. I'm walking. I'm walking with some pace, right? But then I walk up, and then as soon as I get through the gate, and I walk up to him like, "How's it going, Sam?" And that is too much. That now he doesn't know who he dealing with. Like now he extra nice because he's unsure. You know what I mean? Man, over here, and this is my thing. I know we two grown men, but like, you gotta stay in character. You know what I mean? Like, cause I roll up, I'm like, "Hi, Santa," and he's like, "Oh." You are supposed to say ho, ho, ho. How do you do the exact opposite of your literal catchphrase? I'm like, "How you doing, Santa?" "Oh." How are you? What's your name? And then I was like, "I'm Josh." And I know that by using my thumb to point at myself, I know that was a wild move. If you use your thumb to point at yourself, you probably don't do everything yourself. If you're using your thumb to point at yourself, you're probably 12. You're very proud of a certificate you just earned or something. It's like, "What's your name?" "I'm Josh." "Oh." There it is again. Why are you doing that? You know what I mean? And so, you know, He's sitting there, and it's a chair. There's a chair. There's nowhere else. You have to sit in Santa's lap. It's part of the experience. You do. And so the fact that maybe I seem eager, that's fair. I seem a little eager. And that's on me. I should be cooler about it. I should walk, you know what I mean? I shouldn't jump, yeah, so. But yeah, I go ahead, sit in Santa's lap, but, you know, he even had the little, like, yeah, like, he knows they built it this way. This is how you're supposed to do it, so that. And I sat in his lap, and admittedly, I should have started talking. Like, I shouldn't have just sat there waiting for him to speak or something. But and I know that everybody's doing their best. I never want to put somebody who's making an honest, just an earnest effort down or anything, but. His lap game was lacking. Like this is like I've sat in many laps. I've been serviced by many Santas, and when I tell you this man lap was weird. Like this. First of all, so I sat in my man's lap, right? And I'd never felt anything like this in my life. It felt like the top half was Santa and the bottom half was elves, because like his legs were built like mine. Like he had the skinniest legs. So I can't even get comfortable. It's like he missing a lap. I'm like, you sitting down, right? Felt like I was sitting in between two rungs of a ladder. I was like, where am I going right now? It was at that moment I was like, maybe I should have waited for the other Santa. Like he just, you know what I mean? Felt like his lap would have had more cushion to it, you know? And then he's like, well, what would you like for Christmas? And I was like, Santa, I would love the Millennium Falcon Lego set, the one that came out in 2004 with about 3,000 pieces to it. It's very hard to find online, and if you could get me that, that would make my entire Christmas. And I think my specificity hurt me here, because once again he was like, oh! I was like, that's the third one. This man said, oh! Well, ooh. I hope that works out for you. I hope that works out. Where's the magic? I hope that works out for you. It's a crazy thing to say. Not it'll be there. Not I'll do my best. I hope that works out for you. Are you ready to take the picture? I was like, yeah, I guess, Santa. Like, over here phoning it in. And then you take the picture, and I'm over here. And he looking at the camera like, I'm not gonna see the picture later. Cause I'm grinning ear to ear. I'm with Santa. This man. Unacceptable. Do you know what I mean? Like what are we even doing? You know, like Santa should be battling, trying to fight back for the position that he has lost. Because he has lost it now. What used to be an experience that you waited all year to have is just a couple of clicks to a wish list, and he's left by the wayside. You would think that Santa would be excited to see anybody that was excited to see him. You know? Unacceptable. It felt like I believed in Santa and he didn't believe in me, you know? And so, you know, I get off Santa. Takes a second because he got, I don't know, it was weird. It was like, like I was so sunken in to the cushion because there was no lap or anything that I was genuinely like over here. Thank Santa for his time. I'm walking away, leaving the little fenced off area. And just as I'm walking away, one of the elves, I passed them and they were like, see?